Tower of Terror is Disney's most depressing ride that they have ever made. And you may be asking, Tony, why do you say that Tower of Terror is depressing? Since it has a 13-story drop and it's a thrill ride, shouldn't thrill rides be happy and uplifting like Mission Breakout? Well, here's my stance. Even though I absolutely love the facade, the decorations, and the details, the story itself is really depressing the more you think about it. For those who do not mind spoilers, what happens is you basically step inside of a really worn down, rattled, tired looking hotel that was once a grand fixture of Hollywood in 1917 and has been completely abandoned and is decaying, which is really depressing within itself. Then you get to the pre-show, and basically the pre-show is a lost episode of the Twilight Zone. So as you're watching the pre-show, basically all you hear is a story about how 5 people ended up in the elevator and then disappeared. And I can barely imagine just how depressing it must be for the friends, families, and for anybody who has known them as a celebrity to realize that they have lost somebody with no explanation, no closure whatsoever, except maybe they must have ended up in the most mysterious 5th dimension or the Twilight Zone, which can be rather terrifying, especially if you wonder what happened to your loved one. So that alone is very depressing. But as you go into the ride, you basically are met with a bunch of haunted bellhops, and every single time you try to get closure or resolution, the bellhops just give you this really strange grimace and say, to the room you go, to the service elevator, there's no closure, no answers, which can be really depressing, especially if you're trying to figure out what happened to the 5 passengers. Then you get into then as you're riding the service elevator, the doors open up and there they are, the 5 passengers but as a ghost. They seem to be waiting for you for help, begging you to come help them, but yet you're basically buckled into the service elevator and there's nothing you can do to help the 5 passengers. One passenger begins singing, "It's raining, it's pouring," basically in my eyes as a desperate plea for help, and just to see if anybody can save them from the hallway or break them out of the hotel room. That's when Rocket Raccoon or Mission Breakout might come into play, if there's ever an alternative plot like the Mission Breakout. Yet, right as you are about to help the ghost, or there's a chance of like any retrieval, it just seems that the ghosts are hopelessly trying to speak to you for answers. However, just then, poof, the ghosts completely disappear into nothing and into the ether, which is really, really crushing. I also do apologize for the kind of wobbly camera, just trying to get the phone adjusted in my hands. So, you get the ghosts to disappear, which is really saddening, and all of a sudden you realize that you are going to be met with the exact same fate and circumstances as the elevator car slowly crosses into the 5th dimension. That is what is really adds to the sadness and rather depressing nature of the ride itself. But yet when you think you might have it way out, all of a sudden your elevator begins rocketing and launching. That is when you begin to wonder is if the 5 passengers who you saw are literally stuck for eternity, getting dropped, launched, dropped, and launched there for basically eternity, as suggested in Tokyo's Tower of Terror in Disney Sea. Well, with that being said, that is why I personally find the Tower of Terror to be Disney's most depressing attraction ever made. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to smash the thumbs up button and subscribe to Tony Tower, especially if you enjoy Tower tips and tricks and Tower trivia. With that, and we'll see you in the next video. Woo!